Continuing the discussion of Vishnu Sahasranama, name 720, Dur-dharah, the hard to get God. It's hard to get Him. This is a very important name for us to consider, for those of us who have made our life's mission to get Him. We want to get Krishna, not that we want to control Him, we want to attain to His lotus feet, to serve Him there. That is our goal of life. But it's hard to get such a boon. I was discussing how Krishna can be attained. He agrees to reveal Himself to devotees who have the quality of humility. Actual devotion begins with humility, real deep humility. And that humility is compromised in material existence by the sense of independence from Krishna. And even in devotional service, we may be afflicted by this mentality of thinking, yeah, I can do things. My body is healthy, my body is strong. But really, pure devotional service, of course, that is defined anyabhilashita shunyam, being free from personal desires. But another way of looking at it is to give up the mentality of being independent. Even materially, we should consider that we are dependent upon others. We may say, I'll do it my way, Frank Sinatra. Some of you oldies may remember Frank Sinatra. I did it my way. The whole idea, I'll do it by myself, I'll get on top. But even to acquire our daily food, we need the help of others. Of course, brahmanas, traditionally, who are very renounced, they would live in the forest just taking leaves and fruits, but even there, they're dependent on the trees. The trees, they are dependent on water. The water is given by Indra. We're all interdependent. Generally, living in the varnashram system should generate an understanding that we're interdependent, especially what was known as the Jajmani system, in which everyone does their work, their prescribed duty. Everyone has a prescribed duty to do, which is a service to the rest of the members of the community. And in this way, it's a clearly interdependent community. It's not that people get paid. There's no such thing. Well, there may be there's some little something given by the person who accepts the service, but generally everyone does their service for everyone else. Just like the barber will come once a month or whatever his fixed time is, and cut your hair, and cut your nails, and all these things. But you don't pay him. You don't pay. His payment is from grains produced by someone else, by the local farmer. You may give him something, depending on your position. You may give him, just like in a sacrifice, if the brahmanas are given gifts, they may give some. So it's a complex system, but the general thing is that everyone should be properly situated in varnashram, sthane stita, and then properly situated, understanding that we are interdependent, and ultimately we're all dependent, anad bhavanti bhutani. We're all dependent on food. Food is dependent on rain. Rain is dependent on yajna, and yajna that is dependent on the pleasure. The results of yajna is dependent on the pleasure of the demigods, and ultimately, mayaiva vihitan hitan, everything that's given by the demigods is ultimately given by Krishna. So we're all dependent. Brahmana to some extent can be independent if the varnashram system is set up, unless he's extremely advanced and he can just live on fruits and roots and things like that. But then again, he has to see that I'm dependent on the gifts of God. And it is difficult in cold climates especially to live in such a renounced and independent way, because just like Shukdev Goswami says that, well, you can just lie down anywhere and you can use your arm as a pillow, but it's very hard to do that in cold climates. So that's a tangential discussion on how we should understand that we are dependent on Him. In one sense, we are inseparable from Him. He's hard to get personally. We're inseparable from Him. Just like in a kingdom, the citizens, they are dependent on the king. There's a sense of dependence on the king for their protection and upholding the system in society. But at the same time, it's not that every citizen has access to the king directly. Another thing I was talking about in the last talk was that Krishna is merciful, but He is not cheap. We shouldn't take Krishna's mercy for granted. Ye yata mang prapadyante, Krishna says. As they approach me, so I reciprocate. So don't think that, well, Krishna's obliged to pick me up. That we hear in Shastra that Krishna picks up His straying devotees, so let me stray away and Krishna will pick me up sooner or later. If we think like that, then it's really taking Krishna very cheaply, and he's not obliged to. He's not obliged to give pure devotional service. As we know from the Bhagavatam, Rajan Patir Gurur Alang Bhavatang Yadu Nam Daivang Priya Kulapati Kvacha Kinkaro Vaha Astvevam Anga Bhagavan Bhajatang Mukundo Mukting Datati Karhichit Smana Bhakti Yogam. Srila Prabhupada's translation. This is Narad Muni speaking to Yudhishthira Maharaj. My dear king, the Supreme Person, Mukunda, is actually the maintainer of all the members of the Pandava and Yadu dynasties. He is your spiritual master, worshipable deity, friend, and the director of your activities. So the Pandavas, they definitely got Krishna. To say nothing of this, he sometimes serves your family as a messenger or servant. This means he worked just as ordinary servants do. Those engaged in getting the Lord's favor attain liberation from the Lord very easily, but he does not very easily give the opportunity to render direct service unto him. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada summarizes this, that Lord Krishna easily gives one liberation, but he does not easily give one the facility to become a devotee. So if we take devotional service cheaply and think, well, Krishna will lift me up. I remember one of my godbrothers years ago saying that, well, I think I did enough devotional service in this lifetime and maybe I'll come back in another lifetime, and went off into Maya. I'll do it some more later. This half-hearted approach won't attract Krishna. If we make a pact to not be attracted to Krishna, we can't think that Krishna is obliged to attract us to Him. Even if we don't go away completely, but a half-hearted approach won't work. You may remember I gave a talk just on little things that keep us from Krishna. If we really want Krishna, then we'll maximize our chances of doing so by not taking any risks, doing things which we understand from Shastra that Krishna doesn't like. So half-hearted devotional service won't attract him. Pure devotional service, there's a saying in English, such and such is a privilege, not a right. It's a privilege. Everyone has the right, every living being, and especially in the human form of life, every living being has the right to start to worship Krishna. That's a fact, because Krishna is so kind and we're all his parts and parcels intrinsically. So Krishna lets anyone approach him. Chaturvidha bhajante mam. Chaturvidha bhajante mam. All different kinds of people can start to worship Krishna, and Krishna accepts that at some level, but pure devotional service is a reserved principle, even a reserved privilege, because even mukting dadati karhichit smana bhakti yogam, even he gives liberation much more easily than he does pure devotional service. So Krishna is hard to get unless we really want him. We can start to worship Krishna as an artha jignasur, artharti. We can worship Krishna. Help, I'm suffering. Krishna, help me. Hey, Krishna, give me some money. Or, hey, Krishna, what's all that about, this Krishna? We can start to do in distress, desiring wealth, out of curiosity, but he's hard to get unless we really want him. And approach him in great humility, that Krishna, with the understanding that I'm completely depending on your mercy. If we think, just like the materialist thinks, I will become great by my own effort. So if you think, well, I'll become a great devotee, or I'll become liberated by my own effort. The person who wants liberation, moksha kami, he thinks, well, by doing my austerities and chanting mantras, I'll become liberated, I'll control my senses by my own effort. Similarly, a devotee may think that by my own, I'll chant so many rounds, and I'll do so many parikramas, and I'll chant so many mantras, and I'm sure to get Krishna prem. No, Krishna, he responds, undoubtedly he is the devotee, but to which kind of devotee? Tesham satata yuktanang bhajatang priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. To a devotee who worships him with priti, with love, not by simply, I'm gonna fast, and I'm gonna do this vow, and I'm gonna do this and that, I'm gonna get Krishna. But worships him with simple love. Krishna gives the intelligence by which such a person can come to him. He is easy to get, he says in Bhagavad Gita, for a certain type of devotee, ananya cheta satatam yomang smarati nityashaha tasyaham sulabha partha nitya yuktasya yoginaha. So here the word is used, sulabh, easy to get. And practically you could say that word means cheap. And we're talking about Dur-dharah, hard to get. Dur-dharah, it's just like durlabha, hard to get. And Krishna says, I'm sulabha, easy to get, for one who thinks of me always. Always. Ananya cheta satatam yomang smarati nityashaha. He says the same thing in two ways. One who always thinks of me without deviation. It says it two things. But then how are we going to do that? Our mind is cluttered with so many different thoughts and desires and misconceptions and attachments. How are we going to do that? It's tivrena bhakti yogena, by complete dedication or intense devotional service. Then in intense desire to attain Krishna, or intense application. Now we're saying, well, someone may say, well, by intense application, I'll chant so many rounds, I'll do so many fasts, I'll follow so many vows. Yeah, intense, no doubt, but again, it's not just the procedures. Tivrena bhakti yogena means not simply that our activities are intense, but our feelings for Krishna, they should become intensified by hearing about Krishna, chanting about Krishna in the association of pure devotees. The general attitude, this one thing, if we make this switch in our life, then everything will go on the right course. Anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam. Accepting everything which is favorable for getting Krishna and rejecting everything in our life which is an obstacle to getting Krishna. So if we get on this track, then Krishna will be very pleased with that, and he will help us. In other words, shifting our consciousness from that, what I want to do, I want this, but that which Krishna wants me to do, which we have to do to please Krishna, that should be the priority in our life. Of course, living in this world, we may have so many obligations, which may tend to distract us from Krishna, but keep our focus. I'm living this life for Krishna's pleasure only. Dur-dharah hard to get, but I'm hoping that I'm praying. I'm trying to make myself pleasing to Krishna so that he will come and pick me up. If I try to catch him, we cannot accommodate an elephant on a dish. So we cannot accommodate Krishna within the sphere of our. We don't have the power to do so. We don't have the brain power to understand him. We don't have the ability to perform so many amazing activities. We can simply pray to Krishna. Manifest. Please, Jagannatha Swami Nanda Patagami Bhavatume. Please show yourself to me. Of course, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, we should act in such a way that Krishna will be pleased to see us, rather than thinking how I will see him. But if we act in such a way that Krishna will be pleased to see us, then surely we will see him also. That's the secret. We do everything for Krishna's pleasure, and automatically Krishna becomes pleased, and we become pleased. And we become happy. And then we may say, well, why bother with all this anyway? Why bother with Krishna? Just be happy here and now. Because Krishna, we got that name, Adripta. Krishna is happy. In contrast to those who falsely think themselves happy. If we think we'll be happy without Krishna, then our attitude is demoniac. It follows the demoniac attitude described by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. Ishvaroham aham bhogi siddhoham balavan sukhi. Someone who thinks, I don't need Krishna, I'm independent, I'm taking control of my own life, I'm taking control of everything. I am the Lord of all that I survey. I'm here to enjoy myself. What I do is perfect. Don't criticize me. I'm powerful enough. I'm happy enough. I don't need all your Bhagavad Gita, but what is their situation? Such people are dambho, darpo, bimanascha. They're full of pride, arrogance, and conceit. Just the antithesis of the pure devotional service, the humility, the love by which we can get Krishna. And what is the actual situation of such people who have this strange idea that they're happy when their actual situation is chintam aparimayam cha pralayantam upashrita. Chintam aparimayam cha pralayantam upashrita ha kamo pabhoga parama etavad iti nischita ha Asha pasha shatair badha kama krodha parayana ha ihante kama bhogartam anya yenartha sanchayan. They, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, the demoniac people, believe that to gratify the senses is the prime necessity of human civilization. Thus, until the end of life, their anxiety is immeasurable, bound by a network of hundreds of thousands of desires. They are absorbed in lust and anger. They desire wealth, enjoyment, all these things. And they, by illegal means, they gather money in this way. So we are all influenced by this mentality. Even those who are on the path of devotional service in this world, we tend to be influenced by this demoniac mentality. And because of this, he is Dur-dharah, hard to get. We can't get Krishna if our heart is not pure. Now, he's hard to get, right? That's what we're discussing. Remember, quoted from Brahma Samhita, Pantastu koti shatavatsara sambragamyo vayoratapi manaso munipungavanam sopyasti yat prabhadit simnya vinchintya tatve govindavadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Lord Brahma states his willingness or his resolve to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the original person, Govinda, Krishna, stating in this verse how he is avichintya tattva, is not possible to understand by the greatest brain, or impossible to reach by the yoga process, even by the yogis who travel at the speed of the mind for millions of years. In other words, they're engaged on the mechanical yoga process, the mental process for millions of years. But it's just the wrong way to try to approach him. They can't even begin to approach the tips of the toes, of the nails of his beautiful lotus feet. So very hard to get. In contrast, Sri Radha, on occasion, he is begging to get her. He is begging her, you please let me into your company, and she rejects him. She is so proud. This is all on the highest transcendental platform. So another name we just discussed in this verse, Darapaha, he who kills pride. So his own pride is killed by Sri Radha. These very, very high topics, beautiful topics. One interesting point that the commentators have pointed out, our own Baladev Vidyabhushan has pointed out, that in this verse, following the word Dur-dharah, comes the word Atha, which is not a name, but it can have various meanings. It can be something like an interjection, or it can mean therefore. And Baladev Vidyabhushan, among others, points out that this word, if it's inserted in the middle of a sentence, has the effect of being a mangala vakyam, ateti grantha madhye mangalam, that it indicates special auspiciousness. So this Dur-dharah, hard to get, that's very auspicious. You may say, why auspicious if it's hard to get? That doesn't sounds like it's inauspicious. No, it's very, very auspicious, because that Krishna is so hard to get means that maintains the purity and the sanctity of his pastimes, that only those who really want to get Krishna, who are really pure in heart, can enter therein. So there's more to say about this name Dur-dharah, with other interpretations of the meaning of the name, and I look forward to talking on that in a future sitting. Thank you so much, all of you who are kindly listening to this beautiful exposition of the names of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as given by Bhishmacharya in the Vishnu Sahasranama, spoken in the presence of Lord Sri Krishna, who was so kind to appear at his deathbed of arrows. Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.